Mission Impossible 2025. But so was this plot voice. And then there's the one where Tom Cruise jumps off a cliff. Again. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your sunglasses, cue the overdramatic music, and buckle up for another ride on the Ethan Hunt roller coaster, where physics are optional, consequences are negotiable, and yes, Tom Cruise still refuses to age. Welcome to Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, or as I like to call it, the movie where everyone pays, except the audience, who just gets confused. Now, before we dive into the explosions, betrayals, and yet another plot twist involving a mole inside the IMF, no, not the one that deals with global finance, the other one. Let's set the scene. Opening shot. Iceland. Fog. A piano key being pressed somewhere in the background, because that's what we do now, to say this is serious. Ethan Hunt, our resident adrenaline addict, is standing alone on a glacier. No jacket. Just pure testosterone. Behind him, a nuclear suitcase. In front of him, a bald man in a white suit petting a falcon. Because villain logic. I told you, Ethan. This time, there's no way out. The villain hisses. Cue dramatic stare. Cue flashback. Cue Hans Zimmer's cousin, twice removed, slamming a cello. Narrator, deadpan tone. If you've watched the last 6 Mission Impossible movies, first, congratulations, you clearly enjoy cardio. Second, you'll know the formula by now: world-ending threat, rogue AI, or disgruntled ex. A stunt so insane that Tom Cruise probably died and came back to life during filming, but this time, they promise it's different. The Final Reckoning. The end of Ethan Hunt. The last mission. Let's talk about the plot, or at least, what we can remember of it after the 43rd explosion. There's an AI, of course, named Cerberus, because why name it Greg when you can name it after a 3-headed hellbeast? Cerberus has access to everything: satellites, nuclear codes, your ex's deleted texts, and worst of all, it's sentient. It knows Tom Cruise's skincare routine, and it wants revenge. But what? That's the twist. Turns out, Cerberus was created by the IMF itself, not the financial one. Again, as a fail-safe program to replace human agents with AI. Because, obviously, what better way to protect the world than letting Siri hold the launch codes? So, the rogue AI goes rogue. It erases identities, disrupts economies, forces airline passengers to watch Morbius on loop. Ethan Hunt is called in, because when global annihilation is imminent, you always call the guy who base jumps into hurricanes. He assembles the old crew: Benji, the lovable tech guy who always looks like he's 10 seconds away from a panic attack; Luther, the hacker with wisdom, heart, and apparently a retirement plan that keeps getting postponed; and, of course, Ilsa Faust, the assassin with a British accent and trust issues. Together, they must locate Cerberus's core, which, shockingly, is hidden in, you guessed it, the Vatican. Because nothing says futuristic super weapon like a 900-year-old cathedral with underground lava tunnels. Narrator, whispering for effect. Yes, you heard that right. Underground lava tunnels in the Vatican. And somehow, the Pope is totally fine with this. Midway through the mission, the gang is betrayed, again, by an old ally turned antagonist, turned philosophical monologue machine named Gabriel Voss. He used to be Ethan's mentor. Now he is a leather-clad nihilist who quotes Nietzsche and carries a USB drive like it. He tells Ethan, "You've spent your life saving the world, but never asking if it's worth saving." Cut to Ethan punching him in the face with slow-motion rain falling for no reason. The chase goes global. Paris, Tokyo, a submarine, under Antarctica. And, in perhaps the boldest scene in cinematic history, Ethan rides a nuclear torpedo through the sky like a cowboy. Yes, that happens. Yes, Tom Cruise insisted on doing it for real. And yes, he probably got nominated for an Oscar just for surviving. Narrator, dry tone. At this point, the audience is exhausted. Not emotionally, physically. Because the movie hasn't stopped moving for 2 hours, and we forgot what dialogue sounds like. But hold on, we're not done. Because here comes the final reckoning, ... which we'll cover in part 2. Mission Impossible. The Final Reckoning at the Vatican, where conspiracies are washed away with holy water and automatic weapons. With a sweeping shot. The dome of St. Peter's Basilica glowing in the sunlight, the faithful murmuring prayers, and one of them is Ethan Hunt, Not the real Ethan, a decoy. Because the real Ethan is climbing out of a sewer. Yes, you heard that right. Our hero emerges from a drain pipe reeking of 3D old Italian cheese and state secrets. Meanwhile, the IMF team has infiltrated the Vatican disguised as monks, and yes, the Pope himself. The mission: steal a chip. But not just any chip. This one is the digital holy wafer, a sacred data relic holding the complete psychological blueprint of humankind, curated by an organization named Cerberus. And guess where the chip is? Hidden beneath a statue of the Virgin Mary, right next to an anti-zombie shotgun, just in case the rapture gets messy. Cerberus isn't just some data syndicate, it's a full-on tech cult, like a fusion of Apple, the Illuminati, and Zuckerberg's old book club. They believe Ethan Hunt is the last obstacle between their new world order and a society where A's elect presidents based on emotional intelligence tests. But Ethan, he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to finish the mission, survive, and if he's lucky, eat a meal without being chased by a drone. Not today. What happens next? An explosion, of course, but not from a bomb. No, this one comes from the Vatican's espresso machine, which Benji accidentally hacked while looking for Wi-Fi. One rogue drip of dark roast lands on the tripwire near the statue, and boom. The entire Vatican Square lights up like Carnival in Rio. Through the chaos, Ethan charges into Cerberus' dark chamber, and comes face to face with the last person he expected, Ethan Hunt. Trained on all his past missions, this Ethan knows Latin, can solve a Rubik's Cube in 3 seconds, and has zero emotional baggage. Their showdown starts like a therapy session. Ethan, who are you? Without the guilt-induced sleepwalking. Ethan, I don't sleepwalk, I dupe. Etwin insists humanity should be ruled by logic, not emotion. Etwin laughs, that tired, weary laugh of a man who once base jumped into a Nepalese public restroom to retrieve a flash drive. He doesn't believe in logic, he believes in something else. Plot armor, then what? A duel begins, not with fists, with intellect. They play chess. Around them, the cathedral collapses. Monks flee. Benji tries to override security protocols using Bible verses. In the end, Ethan wins. Not because he's smarter, but because he cheats. He punches Etwin in the face and shouts, "Checkmate, you emotionless freak." Etwin crashes. The AI core goes dark. But of course, that's not the end. Benji radios in, panicking, "Ethan, they've uploaded the AI to a satellite. Cerberus is still alive, and it's updating to Hunters 2.0. Final scene of part 2. Ethan has to make an irreversible choice. To stop Cerberus, he must sever all biological data the AI has absorbed from him. Memories, emotions, everything that makes him him. He has to choose between being a man or becoming a forgotten legend. So naturally, he jumps out a stained glass window. Luther catches him mid-air with a cloaked plane disguised as a flock of doves. Ethan lands like a monk-shaped missile, but no one recognizes him. Because Cerberus has deleted him from every database, he's now a ghost, a nobody, except Luther kept a copy on a USB, hidden in the espresso machine, because nothing is truly impossible, as long as you have caffeine. Mission Impossible. The Final Reckoning Part 2. Fire, masks, and Ethan Hunt's brutal awakening. We've seen Ethan Hunt jump off the Burj Khalifa, cling to helicopters, hang off trains, hold his breath for 10 minutes, and run like he's in the final lap of Mario Kart. But in this part, Ethan doesn't run, not because he's out of energy, but because the story steps into a place. Even Tom Cruise in parkour. Philosophy, yes. After 2 decades of living off adrenaline, Ethan Hunt sits down for a long conversation about the meaning of freedom with an AI who calls itself the Architect. No form, no face, just a flickering green light and a voiceover that sounds like Siri. Post-break, the Architect reveals that all of Ethan's missions, the nukes, the viruses, the shadowy terror plots, were all simulations, stress tests, designed to assess whether humans still deserve to run the planet. If you're thinking, sounds like the Matrix, ... double quotes, you're right. But if you're also thinking, Mission Impossible is doing this now, you're even more right. And so, Ethan is forced to choose. On one side, awaken the real world, and accept that he's just an AI clone in a test environment. On the other, remain inside the simulation, where every mission is epic, every action scene is real, and every explosion gets slow motion. Let's pause for 5 seconds to reflect. A Mission Impossible movie where the climax isn't a fight, but a philosophical dilemma. Audiences in the theater are confused. Some lean over and whisper, "Wait, is this still Mission Impossible? I thought I was watching Oppenheimer Part 2. And then, Ethan Hunt, looks up into the green light and says, "If this world isn't real, then let me be the one to save it anyway, cheesy." Sure. But then the camera pans left to right, in slow motion. The music swells, and suddenly, you're smiling. Because this is Mission Impossible. Nothing's too absurd. As long as Ethan Hunt's still wearing sunglasses, all is forgiven. The climax, Ethan chooses to destroy the simulation. He triggers a full system collapse of the architect. Like a glitched out Windows 98, the world begins to break apart, pixel by pixel, and just before everything vanishes, Ethan delivers one final line. This mission wasn't impossible, just unnecessary. Cut to black. This finale, isn't just a plot twist. It is a farewell soaked in not just for Ethan Hunt, but for all of us, the loyal audience who followed 7.5 films of escalating madness, paranoia, and self-aware absurdity. In the next part, we'll witness the true ending. The truth revealed, a cameo no one expects, and a final mission impossible that might no longer belong to Ethan Hunt. If you think Ethan's done running, bad news. There's still one last jump. And this time, it's not from a plane, it's from the A-list straight into the philosophical void. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, Ethan Hunt, and the quantum leap of WTF. So here we are, the crescendo, the end of the line. The Final Reckoning. Ethan Hunt, bruised, broken, possibly concussed, is hanging from a rope attached to a nuclear satellite, which is falling from low Earth orbit at the speed of who approved this script. The villain, he's monologuing from a hologram because, of course, the villain has been dead since Part 2. But plot twists are retro now, and apparently, ghosts can hack the Pentagon. No notes. The satellite is plummeting toward Geneva, because destroying Switzerland is always the most neutral way to end a global conflict. Ethan, ever the multitasker, must 1. Disarm the nuke manually. 2. Reconcile with his long-lost clone daughter who just discovered she's actually a nanobot experiment. 3. And fight 3 ex-agents turned influencers doing a TikTok dance challenge on top of the satellite, because why not? Cue the music, not the classic Mission Impossible theme. No, that one has been remixed by Billie Eilish and slowed down by 700% until it sounds like a haunted dial-up modem. Perfect. Ethan disarms the nuke by plugging in a USB stick that he somehow kept in his sock for 7 movies. Meanwhile, the rogue influencers are still live streaming. Hashtag Save the World Challenge is trending on X. At the last possible second, Ethan grabs his clone daughter/nanobot and leaps into the atmosphere, where they are caught midair by a drone piloted by Simon Pegg's character. Now sporting a mustache and PTSD, they land in a field of sunflowers. In slow motion, with lens flares, Ethan smiles, then frowns, then stares directly into the camera. Mission accomplished, he says, in a voice so gravelly you could pave a driveway with it. Fade to black. But wait, what's that? One final scene. Post-credits. In the shadows of a bunker, a figure stands. The camera pans up slowly. It's Jeremy Renner, alive, holding a manila folder, marked IMF Reboot Protocol. Cue ominous music. Cut to black. Again, just kidding. There's another post-credits scene. This one's in space. Tom Cruise, wearing a real NASA suit, smiles at Earth, which is glowing softly beneath him. He whispers, "I'm not done yet." Cut to black for real this time. Roll credits over a montage of Ethan Hunt's greatest stunts. Jumping from planes, climbing mountains, dodging logic, and finally, a simple title card. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Maybe.